The coffee slipped before the words really landed. Ethan Cole felt the paper cup tilt in his hand, hot liquid spilling over his fingers, dark drops pattering onto the polished office floor. The whole lobby seemed to freeze the receptionist mid-type, the security guard halfway through a step. The elevator doors stuck open with a soft chime dot in front of him stood a girl. Small, maybe 10. Thin arms, backpack too big for her shoulders, sneakers a little dirty, like she had walked far. Her hands were clenched into fists at her sides, as if it was the only way to keep them from shaking. "My mom told me you're my dad," she repeated, her voice trembling but brave. "Are you?" Ethan stared at her, chest tight, heart pounding so loud he could hear it in his ears. His brain tried to reject it, to call security, to say there must be some mistake, but her eyes hazel, wide, scared dot the same color as someone he had spent 10 years trying to forget. "Before this story pulls you deeper, just pause with me for a second. Where in the world are you watching from right now?" It's strange and beautiful how a single story can travel from one heart to another. Drop your country or city in the comments, so we can see how far this moment reaches. The morning had started like every other for Ethan. The city was still shaking off sleep when his black sedan pulled up to the glass tower of Cole Enterprises. Gray clouds hung low, pressing the light flat and cold against the windows. Inside the car, Ethan scrolled through emails, jaw tight, ignoring the ache behind his eyes from another night of too little sleep. A big day. "Sir," his driver said softly. "They're all big days," Ethan replied. Not looking up, he stepped out, straightened his navy suit jacket, and walked through the revolving doors like a man stepping onto a stage. People nodded, smiled, moved aside. Phones buzzed. Elevators chimed. Screens glowed with graphs and numbers that never stopped moving dot to everyone watching. He was exactly what they expected, Ethan Cole. 38, millionaire CEO, sharp as glass. Untouchable dot, no one saw the way his hand trembled slightly as he took his first coffee of the day. No one knew that certain dates still circled in red on a calendar he kept shut in a drawer he never opened. The date he left his hometown. Date he signed his first big deal. The date he walked away from Grace. He tried not to think her name, even in his own head. It still tasted like regret. He was crossing the lobby, coffee in hand, mind already on the meeting with investors. When he saw the girl dot at first, she was just a shape near the entrance. A kid, standing alone where kids didn't belong. Her backpack straps slipped off one shoulder, and she hitched them up again with an impatient little jerk. She was staring at the directory wall like it was written in another language. The security guard, Martin, approached her first. "Hey, sweetheart," Martin said, voice gentle. "You lost?" The girl shook her head, chewing on her bottom lip. "No, I'm looking for someone. Your mom or dad?" He asked dot. She hesitated, eyes flicking toward the revolving door, like she had one more chance to run. Then she lifted her chin in a tiny act of courage. My dad," she said. "His name is Ethan Cole." Martin's eyes widened. He glanced instinctively toward the elevators, where Ethan had just stepped out. It was automatic. The way people looked for him, noticed him, made space for him. Ethan didn't hear their words, but he saw the way Martin's face changed. Saw the way the girl's shoulders stiffened, the way her fingers twisted in the hem of her faded T-shirt. He could have kept walking. He should have. He didn't. His feet turned before his mind decided. One step, then another, the sound of his shoes echoing through the quiet of the lobby. The receptionist looked up, sensing something strange. Her hand hovering over the phone, unsure if she should call someone. As Ethan approached, the girl finally looked straight at him. Those hazel eyes, so full of fear and stubborn determination, grabbed him like a hand around his throat. For a second, he saw another face layered over hers, Grace at 19. Wind in her hair, laughing in the cheap back row of a movie theater, his chest squeezed. The memory vanished before he could stop it. "Yes, sir?" Martin said quickly, stepping back but staying close to the girl, protective. "She says she's looking for—" "I heard," Ethan cut in, his voice low. He looked down at the girl. "What's your name?" She swallowed. "Lily." Lily. The name hit something deep inside him, something buried. He didn't know why. Maybe because it sounded small and fragile. Maybe because it sounded like something you should protect. "Lily," he repeated, slower this time. Who sent you here?" "My mom," she said. "She told me to come find you if—" Her voice cracked and she pressed her lips together hard. "If something happened." Ethan felt the air leave his lungs. "If something happened." He echoed, the words tasting metallic. Lily nodded. Her eyes glistened and she blinked fast, like she was fighting not to cry in front of all these strangers in suits and polished shoes. "She got sick," Lily whispered. She said, if she couldn't take care of me anymore, I should come here. She gave me your name, your building, everything." Ethan's grip on his coffee tightened. For a heartbeat, he forgot everything else. The investors waiting upstairs, the numbers, the deals. "How old are you?" he asked, though he already guessed. 10, she said. 10 years. His stomach dropped. Behind him, someone called his name, but it sounded distant, muffled, like it was coming through a wall. The world had narrowed to this girl, and the tremble in her voice, and the way her eyes searched his face, desperate for something he wasn't sure he had. "Lily," he said quietly, hardly hearing himself. "Where's your mother now?" Lily looked up at him, and the answer in her eyes made his next breath catch in his throat asterisk. He didn't need her to say the word. "Hospital," Lily whispered anyway. "St. Mary's. She said they're doing everything they can, but she told me if it got worse, I should come." Today it got worse. The buzzing in Ethan's ears got louder. People were watching now discreetly, from behind phones and computer screens, from the edges of the lobby. They saw a powerful man and a scared little girl, but they didn't know the storm building between them. Ethan drew in a breath that felt like it scraped his ribs. "Martin," he said without looking away from Lily, "call upstairs and postpone my 9 o'clock. Tell them it's an emergency." Martin blinked. Ethan never postponed anything. "Why, yes, sir." Ethan crouched down a little so he was closer to Lily's height. His knees protested. He'd spent too many hours in boardrooms and too few on the ground. "Did you come here alone?" he asked gently. She nodded. "Bus and then walking?" "I had the paper with your name. I almost turned around, but then I thought—" Her voice shook. "I thought my mom would be mad if I didn't try." A small crack formed inside his chest. "You did the right thing," Ethan said quietly. The words surprised him. They felt soft, almost like someone else was speaking through his mouth. Lily's mouth trembled. "Are you mad?" Ethan looked at her, really looked. The faint shadows under her eyes. The way her backpack looked overstuffed, like she had tried to carry her whole life on her shoulders. The way she kept searching his face for a sign that she wasn't completely alone. "No," he said, and to his own surprise, it was true. "I'm not mad." He stood and held out his hand. "Come on," he said. "Let's go see your mom." For a heartbeat, Lily stared at his hand like it was something dangerous. Then slowly, she slipped her small fingers into his. Her hand was cold and slightly sticky, like she'd been holding onto that backpack strap for dear life. His chest tightened again, but he didn't let go. They walked out together, past the curious eyes and the whispers that started as soon as the glass doors closed behind them. If you were standing in that lobby, watching this man in a suit take a scared little girl's hand, What would you have done? Would you look away, pretend you saw nothing, or step closer and help somehow? Be honest. Comment your answer below, and if you don't know what you'd say, just tap like to show that compassion still matters in moments like this. The ride to St. Mary's was quiet. The city moved outside the car windows in smeared colors gray buildings. Red lights, the flash of crossing signs. Inside, the air felt heavy with things neither of them knew how to say. Lily sat stiffly, her backpack still on her shoulders, fingers twisting the frayed strap. She kept sneaking glances at Ethan like she was trying to solve a puzzle. "Do you own that whole building?" she asked suddenly. He blinked, pulled out of his thoughts. "Yes, so you're really rich?" she asked, the word clumsy but honest. "I suppose so," he said that. She looked down at her shoes, one shoelace slightly undone. "My mom said you'd probably be too busy to care," she murmured. The sentence slipped out so quietly Ethan almost missed it. His stomach clenched. "She said that?" Lily nodded. "But she also said sometimes people surprise you. And she told me I had to try anyway." She swallowed. "She said if I found you, maybe I wouldn't be alone." The car felt smaller suddenly. She didn't tell you about me before?" Ethan asked, his voice rough. Lily frowned, thinking. "She told me about you. Just not like this. She used to say you were important, smart, that you had a big life far away. She never said you were my dad until last week." Last week got something inside him flinched. 10 years of silence broken in one sentence to a child. "Did she tell you why she never contacted me?" he forced out. Lily shrugged helplessly. "She said grown-ups make complicated choices, and that maybe you had your reasons. She didn't want me to hate you." Those words landed heavier than any insult. The car pulled up in front of the hospital, its pale brick walls streaked with years of weather and worry. The automatic doors hissed open, washing them with the faint smell of antiseptic and old coffee. Ethan stepped out first, then turned to help Lily, even though she didn't really need help. It just felt wrong not to dot inside. The fluorescent lights hummed softly. Nurses walked past, shoes squeaking against linoleum. Somewhere a child was crying. Somewhere else, a machine beeped steadily like a metronome keeping time with someone's fragile life. Lily walked faster now, as if the building itself scared her less than the thought of being late. "Room?" Ethan asked. 312, she said without looking at him. "Third floor." They took the elevator, standing side by side, reflected in the smudged mirror him in his perfect suit, her in an oversized hoodie and faded jeans, a strange picture that didn't quite fit together. When the doors opened, Lily stepped out first, then slowed, waiting for him. Hallway 3B stretched ahead of them, a row of doors with little windows and plastic nameplates. Lily stopped outside 312. Her hand hovered over the handle, then dropped back to her side. She suddenly looked smaller, all the bravery from the lobby sliding off her shoulders. "You can go in," Ethan said softly. She shook her head. "You go first." He frowned. "Why?" Her eyes grew shiny again. Because if she sees you, maybe she'll smile again. She hasn't smiled much lately. His throat tightened. For a second, he stood there frozen, one hand on the door, 10 years of memories pressing in at once. Grace laughing as she ran through the rain. Grace falling asleep on his shoulder on the bus. Grace standing on the porch the night he told her he was leaving, eyes bright with hurt. He had walked away from that porch. He hadn't looked back. 10 years later, he was standing outside her hospital room, about to walk in as a stranger. He pushed the door open. Asterisk, the room smelled like disinfectant and something. Softer underneath, like the faint trace of a cheap floral perfume that lingered in the curtains. Machines hummed quietly. A heart monitor beeped in slow, steady intervals. Sunlight pushed through a small window, washed out and pale, falling across the thin figure lying in the bed. Grace. For a moment, Ethan thought his memory must have been wrong. The girl he remembered had wild hair and loud laughter, cheeks flushed, from running after buses and chasing dreams that never seemed to wait for her. The woman in the bed looked smaller. Her brown hair was duller, pulled back from her face. Her skin was too pale, her lips cracked. There were dark circles under her eyes, like she hadn't slept properly in months. Tubes and wires ran from her arms to the machines, connecting her to a world that refused to let her go easily. But her face, even under the tiredness and the pain, it was her. His chest clenched. He took a step inside. The door clicked softly behind him. Lily hovered in the doorway, fingers curled around the frame, suddenly shy and fragile. Grace's eyes were closed. "Mom," Lily whispered. Grace's eyelids fluttered, slow, like it cost her effort. Then she turned her head slightly on the pillow. When her gaze landed on Lily, something in her face softened, brightened, even through the haze of pain. "Hey, Bug," she breathed, voice hoarse but warm. "You made it back?" Lily rushed forward, the fear forgotten for a moment. She put her backpack down with a thud and grabbed the side of the bed. "I found him," she blurted. "I did what you said. I went to the building and I found him." Grace's eyes shifted past Lily to where Ethan stood frozen near the foot of the bed. For a second, everything went silent. Her breath caught. The beeping of the machine seemed louder. The room shrank until there was only the space between their eyes, the years, the hurt, the things they had never said. "Ethan," she whispered. His name and her voice after 10 years felt like someone pressing a thumb into an old bruise. "Hi, Grace," he said softly. Her lips twitched in what might have been a smile, or just a reaction to pain. "You look important." He huffed a short, humorless breath. "That's one word for it." Her eyes flicked to Lily and then back to him, and in that look was everything she didn't have the strength to say out loud. "Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. I hate that I had to call you like this." Lily glanced between them, confusion pulling her brows together. "You know him?" Lily said slowly. "Like, really know him?" Grace gave a small nod. "A long time ago." "How long?" Lily asked. Grace swallowed. "Before you were born." The words dropped into the room like a stone into still water. Ethan moved closer, each step heavy. He stopped at the side of the bed, close enough now to see the way Grace's hands trembled on top of the sheets. "What is this, Grace?" he asked quietly. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" She looked tired in a way that went deeper than illness. "Because when you left," she said, her voice thin but steady, "you were so sure, remember? You had that big fire in your eyes. 'I'm going to the city, Gray,' you said. 'I'm going to build something huge. I can't be stuck here.'" He flinched at the echo of his younger self. "You didn't want this town," she continued. "You didn't want this life. You wanted meetings and tall buildings and people who wore suits every day." Her gaze flickered to his jacket. "You got that, didn't you?" Ethan looked down at his hands. They suddenly felt like they belonged to someone else. "I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks after you left," Grace went on. "At first, I thought I'd call you. All right, but then I remembered the way you looked when you walked away, like turning around would kill you. And I couldn't be the reason you stayed somewhere you would hate." Lily's eyes widened. "Mom." Grace reached out weakly, brushing her fingers over Lily's hand. "I thought I was doing the right thing," she whispered. "I told myself you'd grow up with one parent who was fully there, instead of two where one resented you for changing their plans." Ethan felt sick. "Do you really think I would have resented her?" he asked, voice low, rough. Grace's eyes shone with unshed tears. "I didn't want to find out," she said. "You were finally getting everything you dreamed of, I didn't want to be the weight that dragged you back. He closed his eyes for a second, steadying himself against the metal rail of the bed. I had a right to know, he said softly. I know, she replied. The honesty in her voice was sharp. I know that now. But back then, all I knew was that we were kids who made a mistake and then life sped up and you grabbed onto it and I stayed where I was. She gave a small, tired laugh. Then I blinked and 10 years were gone. Lily chewed on her lip. So you loved him? She asked her mother timidly. Grace looked at Ethan again, really looked, seeing the lines time had carved into. His face, the way his eyes were still the same but harder around the edges. I did, Grace said quietly. Maybe a part of me still does. Just in a different way now. The words sat between them, heavy but not cruel. Lily frowned at Ethan like she was trying to match the story to the man. And you just left? The question hurt more than any accusation. He could have lied. He could have softened it. But something about the rawness in this room made pretending feel wrong. Yes, Ethan said, I left. Have you ever had someone step into your life at a moment when you felt completely alone and help you when no one else would? If you have, write yes in the comments and tell me their name. Maybe that small thank you will reach further than we think. Grace studied his face, searching for something, regret, anger, maybe a way back through all the years. I never wanted you to meet her like this, she murmured. How did you want me to meet her? He asked. Her eyes flickered to Lily, then back. Not in a hospital, she said. Not with an expiration date hanging over my head. His breath caught. Grace, she shook her head slightly, stopping him. They say advanced now, she said softly. Such a pretty word for something so ugly. The chemo didn't work. The other treatments bought time, but not enough. Lily's grip on her mother's hand tightened. Don't, she whispered. Don't talk like that. Grace turned her hand and squeezed back as much as she could. Bug, look at me. Lily shook her head, eyes wet. Lily, Grace insisted, though her voice was weak. You remember what we talked about, right? About being brave. About not pretending forever. Lily's shoulders hunched. Tears slipped down her cheeks. You said we had more time, she choked. Grace's eyes shimmered. I thought we would, she admitted. But sometimes life doesn't listen to what we think. Ethan felt something inside him unravel slowly, thread by thread. How long? He asked quietly, the words tasting like dust. Grace didn't answer right away. She looked toward the small window, where a bird sat on a ledge, tilting its head before flying away. The doctor says months, she said finally. Maybe less, maybe a little more. They talk in maybes a lot here. The room seemed to tilt. Lily turned to Ethan then, like a child reaching for something solid in an earthquake. She won't leave me, right? She whispered, as if sheer belief could keep her mother alive. He opened his mouth. No sound came out. He opened his mouth. No sound came out. The man who could talk investors into risking millions, who could convince a room full of strangers to trust his vision, could not find one steady sentence for a 10-year-old girl asking if her mother was going to leave her. Grace saw it. Bug, she whispered, saving him, even now. Come here. Lily leaned closer, resting her forehead gently against her mother's arm. I don't know how long I'll be here, Grace said, each word slow, careful. But I promise you this, I will love you every second I get. And when I can't be here anymore, her eyes glistened, I want you to be somewhere safe, with someone who won't see you as a burden, someone who will fight for you. Her gaze slid to Ethan. He felt it like a weight. Grace, he said quietly. What are you asking? She gave him a small, tired smile that didn't reach her eyes. You're a smart man, Ethan, you know. He shook his head like the motion could push the idea away. You can't just hand me a child like a contract and expect. She's not a contract. Grace cut in, a flash of old fire in her voice. She's your daughter. The word hit him harder than anything else. Had ... for 10 years. He had lived in a world of numbers and targets and late-night meetings. Now, in one morning, someone had put a completely different kind of responsibility in front of him. A small, scared girl with his eyes in her face. I don't know how to do this, he whispered. Grace let out a breath that was half a laugh, half a sob. Like I did? I learned on the way home from the hospital, she said. No manual. Just diapers and fear and love and too much coffee. Lily looked between them like their words were puzzle pieces she was only just starting to fit together. Are you going to send me away? She asked Ethan suddenly, voice shaking. To some place with strangers? He stared at her. On some level, a part of him had already started listing options: boarding schools, guardians, funds, people who could take over where he couldn't. The part of him trained to outsource, to delegate, to fix problems with money. But another part, the quiet one, the one he often ignored, whispered something else. You left once. Are you going to leave again? No, he heard himself say before his brain caught up. No, Lily, I'm not going to just send you away. Her shoulders sagged in a tiny breath of relief. He almost missed. Grace watched him, eyes searching his face. I didn't bring you here just to make you feel guilty, she said softly. I brought you because I'm scared, and because you deserve to know her, and she deserves the chance to know you, really know you, not just as a name on a building. He swallowed hard. His throat felt raw. A nurse knocked gently and stepped in to check the monitors, offering a small, sympathetic smile but saying nothing. Life in the hospital moved around them, but inside the room, time felt thick, slow. Have you told anyone else? Ethan asked. Family, friends? Grace shook her head. My mom passed 3 years ago. Dad left when I was little. I have a cousin 2 states away, but she's got 3 kids and a tiny apartment. I never wanted Lily to feel like luggage someone had to make room for. The image made his chest ache. Silence stretched for a moment, heavy but not empty. Ethan cleared his throat. I need to talk to the doctor, he said. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with. Grace's lips twitched. Still the planner, she murmured. Someone has to be. He replied softly. He turned to Lily. Do you want to stay here with your mom while I talk to them? I'll come back. She hesitated, then nodded. Okay, but don't take long. I won't, he said. He stepped out into the corridor, the door closing quietly behind him. The noise of the hospital rushed back in voices, carts rolling, overhead announcements. He walked to the nurse's station, asked for Grace's doctor, and waited, leaning against the wall, hands shoved in his pockets to hide their shake. Now it's your turn for a small kind of bravery. Share one good thing, no matter how small, that you've done for someone recently. Maybe you held a door, listened to a friend, or checked on a neighbor. Write it in the comments so others remember that kindness still exists. Your small story might be the light someone scrolling in the dark needs tonight. Dr. Patel arrived a few minutes later, a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and a calm voice. They walked to a quieter corner near a window, away from curious ears. You're Mr. Cole? She asked. Yes, he said. I'm Lily's father. The word felt strange in his mouth, unfamiliar and heavy. Something softened in the doctor's expression. I'm glad you're here, she said quietly. How bad is it? He asked, skipping past the polite phrases. She didn't dance around it. Maybe she'd done this too many times. Stage 4, she said. The cancer has spread. We've done multiple lines of treatment. Her body isn't tolerating much more. He looked out the window where the world looked oddly normal, cars moving, people walking, clouds drifting. What does that mean for time? He asked. Dr. Patel sighed. Medically, if there are no major complications, A few months, perhaps. But it could be sooner. We manage symptoms. Keep her as comfortable as possible. Let her say what she needs to say. Her words blurred for a moment. Does Lily know everything? He asked. She knows her mother is very sick, Dr. Patel said. Children are often more aware than we think. But no, they haven't had the full, direct conversation yet. Grace has been protecting her as much as she can. Of course she had. Ethan nodded slowly. What happens to Lily when... He couldn't finish. Dr. Patel watched his face carefully. Has anyone talked to you about that yet? She asked. Grace wants me to take her, he said. And how do you feel about that? The doctor asked gently. He let out a short, humorless laugh. Like someone just handed me a life I didn't know I'd already broken, he said. I don't know how to be a father. My whole world is. Meetings, numbers, flights. Those things can be changed, Dr. Patel said quietly. Children can't. Her words landed like a soft hammer, breaking something open without cruelty. He rubbed a hand over his face. If I take her, everything in my life has to change. If you don't, the doctor said, everything in hers will. He stared at her, unable to look away. Is there any chance for Grace? He whispered, one last hope clinging stubbornly in his chest. Dr. Patel's eyes were kind but firm. We don't deal in miracles, she said softly, but we do deal in moments. There are still moments left. How you use them, that's something you still have control over. Moments. He thought of the years he had burned through. Chasing deals, staying late at the office, thinking there would always be more time for everything else later. Now, later had run out for someone. Can I do anything? He asked. Money, specialists, transfers, anything. She shook her head slightly. We've tried the protocols that matter. At this point, the best thing you can give her is peace. Less stress. Knowing Lily will be looked after. The words wrapped around his ribs. Squeezing, he nodded once, then again more firmly, as if trying to convince his own muscles to accept the decision forming inside him. I'll take care of Lily, he said finally, more to himself than to the doctor. I don't know how yet, but I will. Dr. Patel's shoulders eased. That will mean more to Grace than you know, she said. He walked back down the hall, each step feeling heavier and clearer at the same time. When he opened the door to room 312 again, he found Lily curled up on the chair by the bed, her head resting on the mattress. Fingers laced loosely with her mother's, Grace's eyes were half closed, but they flicked open when she heard him. Well? She whispered. Well? She whispered. Ethan stepped closer, fingers tightening around the rail of the bed. He glanced at Lily, then back at Grace. I spoke to Dr. Patel, he said quietly. She was honest. Grace gave a small, knowing nod. She usually is. He drew in a breath that felt like it scraped his insides. She said there isn't much more they can do. Something flickered in Grace's eyes, not surprise, just the quiet ache of hearing it aloud again. And Lily? She asked, her voice barely above a breath. Did she talk about... What happens to Lily? Ethan looked at the little girl curled by the bed, trying not to listen but hearing every word. Yes, he said. She did. Grace swallowed, her throat working. And he looked straight at her. I'll take her, he said. I don't know how I'm going to rearrange everything yet, but I'll take her. She won't be alone. I promise. The air shifted. Grace's eyes filled instantly, tears sliding sideways into her hair as she exhaled a shaky breath. It was like someone had loosened a knot inside her that had been pulled tight for years. Don't say it if you don't mean it, she whispered. She's heard too many promises from cartoons and bedtime stories. She doesn't need another one that breaks. I mean it, he said, and for once, there was no boardroom polish in his voice. No practiced confidence. Just raw, nervous truth. I don't know anything about PTA meetings or packed lunches or bedtime stories, but I can learn. And I'll make sure she's safe. Lily sat up a little, eyes wide. You'll really take me? She asked, searching his face. He turned to her. If you'll let me, he said. I won't ever force you to see me as anything you're not ready to. But I won't walk away again. Not this time. Her lower lip trembled. You're really my dad, she said, half statement, half question. He nodded slowly. Yeah, he said softly. I am. Lily stared at him for a few seconds that felt much longer, like she was weighing every moment of her short life against this answer. Then, without warning, she climbed off the chair and walked over to him. She stopped just in front of him, looking up. Can I hug you? She asked, as if even that might be too much to ask. The question cracked him open. Yeah, he said, voice rough. You can. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around his waist, pressing her cheek against his suit jacket. The contact was warm and uneven and real. For a second, his arms hovered, unsure. Then they closed around her, gently at first. Then tighter when he felt how small she really was. Grace watched, tears slipping silently down her face. The heart monitor beeped on, steady and indifferent. But the air in the room felt different now, thicker with something like hope. And something like grief. Lily pulled back slightly, sniffing. Your shirt smells like coffee, she muttered, wiping at her nose with the back of her hand. Ethan let out a broken little laugh. Sorry about that. It's okay, she said. Mom always smelled like laundry soap and French fries from her job. Grace smiled faintly. Very glamorous, I know. Lily squeezed her hand. You are the best, Mom, she said fiercely. Grace blinked hard. I tried, she whispered. Ethan sat on the edge of the visitor's chair, suddenly exhausted. We'll need to talk about logistics, he said quietly. Legal guardianship, paperwork, her school. Grace nodded. There's a folder in my bag, she said. Blue one. I've been putting things together. Birth certificate, school records, letters. Letters? He asked out. Her eyes met his. For her, she said softly. For later. Different ones. Birthday, first heartbreak. In case I'm not there to say the things I want to say. His chest twisted painfully. Lily looked at her mother in shock. You wrote letters? She whispered. Grace smiled weakly. You know I never shut up, Bug. You didn't think I'd let a little thing like mortality shut me down, did you? Lily tried to smile, but it came out watery. You say weird words, she muttered. I say accurate words, Grace corrected, a hint of her old playfulness flashing for a second. Then her face grew serious again. Ethan, he straightened. Yeah? She glanced at Lily, then back at him, voice dropping. Can you give us a minute? He hesitated, then nodded. Of course. He stood and moved to the door, but didn't go far, just outside, where he could still see them through the narrow window. He saw Lily lean in close, Grace's lips moving, her hand stroking Lily's hair, even though the effort clearly tired her. He didn't need to hear the words to know they were important. After a few minutes, Lily stepped away, wiping her face, and waved him back, and Grace looked more tired now, edges frayed, but her eyes held a sharpness he recognized from years ago. We need to talk, she said quietly. Just us for a moment. Lily understood before he did. I'll go get a snack, she said quickly. The vending machine has those chocolate bars you like, Mom? Steal me one, Grace whispered. Lily rolled her eyes. It's not stealing if you pay. Then pay with a big smile, Grace said. Those machines never see enough of those. Lily grabbed her backpack and slipped out, closing the door softly behind her. The room felt smaller with just the two of them, For a moment, neither of them spoke. The beeping filled the space. "Say what you need to say," Ethan murmured. "I can take it." Grace let out a breath. "I'm not sure you can," she said honestly. "But I'm going to say it anyway because we're out of time for careful words." He nodded, bracing himself. Hands clasped between his knees. She looked at him, really looked, and he felt like she was peeling back the layers he showed to everyone else. "You walked away from me," she said, not harsh, just factual. "You knew I loved you, and you walked away from this town like it was a burning building. I told myself stories to make it hurt less, that you needed to escape, that maybe you couldn't breathe here. But the truth is you left, and you didn't look back. Not once." He opened his mouth, then shut it again, because it was true. "I'm not saying that to punish you," she continued. "I'm saying it because I need you to understand what you're walking into now. Lily, she feels things deeply, and you're going to be a storm in her life. You can't come in halfway and then decide it's too much." "I won't," he said quickly. "Don't promise with your mouth," she said softly. "Promise with your choices." He inhaled slowly, looking at the floor, then back up at her. "You want to know the truth?" he asked. "The ugly part?" A faint, sad smile touched her lips. "Always." He leaned back in the chair, the fluorescent light painting faint shadows under his eyes. "I didn't just leave this town," he said quietly. "I ran from it, from what it did to my mother, to me." He rarely said these words to anyone, but something about the ticking clock in this room made secrets feel pointless. "My dad left when I was 8, he said. One morning, his boots weren't by the door. His coat was gone. My mom kept setting a plate at the table for a week, then 2. Then she stopped setting plates at all. She worked double shifts, triple shifts, came home smelling like grease and exhaustion. And every time she looked at me, I saw it, the thought she never said out loud. If I hadn't had you, maybe I could have left too." Grace's eyes softened, the anger in them mixing with something else understanding. "I told myself I'd never be that man," Ethan continued. "Never be the weight. Never be the one who stayed and grew bitter. So I decided staying anywhere with anyone was dangerous. Loving someone was dangerous, because what if I became him?" His voice cracked on the last word. "If that confession touched something in you. If you've ever seen someone carry pain, they never learned how to name leave it in the comments. Sometimes a small symbol is the only way we know how to say, 'I hear you. I see you. I'm sorry you went through that.'" Asterisk silence settled between them, thick and vibrating. Grace watched him, her chest rising and falling a little too fast for the monitor's comfort. "So you left me," she said slowly, "because you were afraid of becoming him?" He nodded, shame burning behind his eyes. "I thought if I kept moving, I couldn't hurt anyone like that. No promises, no disappointments." He let out a harsh breath. "Turns out, running can hurt people just as much." Her expression shifted, softening around the edges. "You know what the difference is?" she asked quietly. He looked up, confused. "What?" "Your dad never came back," Grace said. "You did." The words hit him in a place he didn't know was still reachable. "That doesn't erase what you did," she added. "I study. You left. You missed 10 years. First steps, first words, scraped knees, school plays. You missed so much, Ethan, and I won't pretend that doesn't hurt. It does. It really, really does." He swallowed, his throat tight. "I know, and I would do anything to change that, but I can't. All I can do is start now." She studied him for a long moment, like she was measuring that answer against every version of him she had known. "I don't need you to be perfect," she said finally. "I just need you to be present." For her, really present. No disappearing into conference calls every time she needs something. He almost smiled because, of course, she'd say it like that. I can scale back, he said. Put someone else in charge of day-to-day operations. Work from home more. I'll figure it out. Grace arched an eyebrow weakly. Mr. Workaholic is going to work from home. He gave a small shrug. I guess home needs to be somewhere I'm actually in. The words felt strange, but right. She sank deeper into the pillows, fatigue lining her features. There's another thing, she murmured. She thinks the world of me. Too much, maybe. I haven't always gotten it right. I've lost my temper, I've said the wrong things. I've cried in the bathroom so she wouldn't hear. Don't put me on some glass pedestal when I'm gone. He frowned. Why would I? Because it's easier to love a memory than a person, Grace said. I don't want her spending her whole life thinking she has to live up to some perfect version of me. Tell her the truth. Tell her I tried. Tell her I messed up sometimes. Tell her I loved her more than anything. His voice was barely a whisper. I can do that. Her gaze softened. And tell her you're scared too, sometimes, she added. Let her see you as human, not just the man on the building. She doesn't need a statue. She needs a dad. He almost laughed, but it came out choked. I don't know how to be that. You'll learn, Grace said. You'll burn dinner. You'll forget a school holiday. You'll say the wrong thing when she has a crush. And then you'll apologize and listen and try again. That's what being a parent is. Trying again. He looked down at his hands. They no longer looked like tools, like instruments for signing deals. They looked capable of different work. Do you forgive me? He asked suddenly, the question bursting out before he could catch it. For leaving? For not knowing about her? For all of it? Grace's eyes shone. She let the question sit between them for a moment, considering it carefully, like it mattered, which it did. I forgave you in pieces, she said finally. Some days I hated you. Some days I missed you. Some days I pretended you never existed. But every time Lily laughed, every time she did something brave or ridiculous, I saw parts of you in her. It was hard to keep hating someone when half of them lives in the person you love most. He blinked rapidly, looking away toward the small window. So, yes, she whispered. I forgive you. Not because you earned it perfectly, but because I don't want to carry anger into whatever comes next. And because holding on to it would only hurt her. His shoulders shook once, a tremor he tried to hide. He looked back at her. I don't forgive myself, he said. Good, she replied softly. At least not yet. A little guilt can make you careful. Just don't drown in it. Let it push you toward better, not bury you. The door cracked open and Lily peered in, a chocolate bar in her hand. Are you done saying the grown-up stuff? She asked cautiously. Grace smiled faintly. Yeah, Bug. Come here. Lily slipped back into the room, her eyes flicking between them, trying to read the air. Grace gently pressed her trembling fingers to Lily's cheek. I'll always be somewhere, she whispered. In your drawings, in your laughter, in that part of you that refuses to quit. You won't lose me all at once, okay? I'll be in little pieces everywhere. Tears slipped down Lily's face. That's not the same. No, Grace agreed softly. It's not. But it's something. Lily finally drifted off, exhausted. Curled against her mother, Ethan stayed awake. He watched the curve of Grace's face, memorizing it all over again, the faint lines at the corners of her eyes. The way her mouth still tilted like it wanted to smile, even when it hurt dark near dawn. Her breathing grew shallower. She opened her eyes one last time, found his, and held them. Don't waste this second chance, she mouthed more than said. He nodded, tears spilling freely now. I won't, he whispered. She looked at Lily, then back at him. Then, with a small exhale that sounded almost like relief, Grace's chest stilled. The monitor let out a long, flat tone. Somewhere in the hall, someone moved quickly. Dr. Patel appeared, checked her, then gently reached over and turned the sound off. The room went quiet. Ethan felt the moment like a crack through the center of his life, before and after. Split clean. He looked at Lily, still sleeping, unaware that her world had just changed forever. And in that silence, a new promise settled into him, not just to Grace, but to himself. He would not run Dot, not this time. For a long time, Ethan just sat there, listening to a silence that felt too loud. The world outside the tiny window was starting to lighten, the sky turning from black to a dull gray. Cars moved in the distance. Somewhere, someone was making coffee, checking their phone, complaining about traffic. In room 312. Time had stopped. Grace's hand was still loosely wrapped around Lily's. The curve of her lips had softened to something almost peaceful, as if a weight had finally slipped off her shoulders. Ethan wiped his face with the back of his hand, took a shaky breath, and stood up. He moved around the bed slowly, carefully, like any sudden motion might shatter something that was already broken. He reached out and gently brushed a strand of hair away from Grace's forehead, his fingers lingering for a second. "Thank you," he whispered. "For Lily, for everything. For forgiving him more than he deserved." Then he turned to the harder thing. "Lily," he said softly, touching her shoulder. She stirred, mumbling something, her fingers tightening around her mother's hand. "5 more minutes, Mom," she mumbled, still half dreaming, his throat closed. "Lily," he tried again, voice thick. "Hey, it's me." Her eyes blinked open, heavy with sleep. She looked up at him, confused. "What time is it?" "Early," he said. "The sun's just coming up." She turned her head toward her mother, ready to complain about the light or ask for water, the way she always did. She froze. "Mom?" she whispered. Grace didn't move. Lily pushed herself up on her elbows, frowning. "Mom, hey, wake up." She shook Grace's arm gently. "You said you'd be here when I woke up." That was the deal. Nothing. The quiet in the room changed. It wasn't gentle anymore. It was sharp. Lily's breathing hitched. She looked at the wires, the still monitor, her mother's face. Something in her eyes understood before her mind would accept it. "Mom," she said again, louder. "Stop joking. This isn't funny." Ethan's chest ached. He moved closer, but didn't touch her yet. "Lily," he said softly. She's not joking." She shook her head, hard hair flying. No, she said she'd try. She said we had time. She said," her voice broke. "Mom, please." She pressed her forehead against her mother's arm, shoulders shaking. "Please, please, please." Ethan stood there, helpless, feeling like his skin didn't fit. Every part of him wanted to fix it, to sign a paper, write a check, make a call, anything. There was nothing to fix. After a moment that felt endless, he reached out and placed a hand gently on Lily's back. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. She jerked away at first, anger sparking through the grief. "You promised," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "You said you'd help." "You said," "I know," he said, kneeling beside the bed so he was level with her. "I wanted to. I tried. The doctors, they did everything they could. Well, it wasn't enough." She shouted, raw and broken. "Why do bad people get to live and good people have to die? It's not fair." "No," he agreed quietly. "It's not." She glared at him through tears like he was part of the unfairness. "You weren't here," she sobbed. "For so long. You weren't here. And now you show up and she choked. "And she leaves? Why didn't you come sooner? Why didn't you come when I was 5 or 3? Or Every word felt like a stone thrown at a window he'd already cracked. He didn't dodge. "I should have," he said, voice low. "You're right. I should have been here years ago. I can't change that. And I'm so sorry." He swallowed. "But I'm here now. And I'm not going anywhere. Even if you're mad at me. Even if you hate me sometimes. I'm staying." Lily's shoulders shook harder. She buried her face in the blanket, sobbing so hard it looked like it hurt Dot. Ethan stayed on his knees beside her, one hand resting gently on her back, just so she knew he was there. Not crowding, not pulling her away, just there. Nurses came to begin the careful, quiet steps that followed a life ending. Dr. Patel put a kind hand on Ethan's shoulder, her eyes full of a sadness that had seen this too many times before. They spoke in hushed tones about arrangements, about forms, about what came next, but the only thing that really mattered in that moment was a 10-year-old girl clinging to a hand that was already growing cold. Hours later, the sun was high, and the hospital room was empty in a different way. Grace's bed was stripped, remade. The walls were bare. The drawings had been carefully taken down and slipped into Lily's backpack. Only the faint smell of her perfume seemed to linger, stubborn and soft. Ethan walked out of the hospital with Lily beside him. She held onto the strap of her backpack like a lifeline, eyes red and swollen. She didn't look at him as they stepped out into the bright, ordinary light of the day. People passed by, talking, laughing, sipping coffee. Oblivious Dot it felt wrong, that the world hadn't stopped. They drove in. Silence. When they reached his building, the same glass tower where it had started, Lily stared up at it with a strange mixture of awe and resentment. "This is where you live?" she asked quietly. "I live in a building nearby," he said. "This one's my office. The apartment's just down the street." "It's all too shiny," she muttered. He almost smiled. "You'll make it messy, eh?" They rode the elevator up to his apartment top floor. Wide windows, clean lines, everything in its place. It had always felt like a trophy case. Now it felt empty. He opened the door and stepped aside, letting her walk in first. She looked around slowly, the couch with no stains, the shelves with books arranged by color, the sleek kitchen with its unused oven. "It doesn't smell like anything," she blurted. "What do you mean?" He asked. "Home is supposed to smell like something," she said. "Like food or candles or laundry or..." Her voice cracked. "Or French fries." He swallowed. "We can fix that," he said. "We'll burn something in the oven if we have to." She gave him a look like she wasn't sure if he was joking. Dot. He showed her the room he'd prepared in the last few days, a simple space with a bed by the window, a small desk, an empty bookshelf waiting. "You said you didn't need a princess room," he said, a little nervous. "Just a window and a bookshelf." She stepped inside, touching the edge of the desk, the unopened box of bedding, the empty shelves. "Can I..." She hesitated. "Can I put my drawings on the wall?" "Anywhere you want," he said. "This is your room." She nodded, chewing her lip. "It doesn't feel like mine yet." "It will," he said gently. "It takes time." She set her backpack down carefully in the corner, like she was afraid to take up too much space. That night, he burned dinner just like Grace had predicted. The smoke alarm went off, shrill and offended. Lily stared at him, then started laughing through her tears. "You really don't know how to cook?" she said. "Not yet," he replied, fanning the smoke away with a dish towel. "But I know how to order pizza." They ate pizza on the couch, the box open between them. The apartment finally smelled like something cheese and tomato and a little bit of burnt bread. Over the next weeks, life reshaped itself. Mornings became school runs instead of pre-dawn conference calls. Evenings turned into homework at the kitchen table, Lily's pencils scattered everywhere. Ethan's laptop pushed aside so he could help her with fractions he hadn't thought about in 20 years. Some nights, she cried herself to sleep. He would stand in the hallway, listening, unsure if he should go in or let her have the space. One night, he knocked softly and stepped inside. Lily was curled on her side, clutching one of Grace's letters to her chest. Her eyes were swollen. Her voice was a whisper. I don't want her to become just a sad thing, she said. I don't want people to look at me and only see what I lost. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, careful not to jostle her. What do you want them to see? He asked. She thought for a long time. I want them to see that she loved me, she said finally, and that I'm still here, and that I'm trying. He nodded slowly. They will, he said. And if they don't, I'll remind them. She looked at him, eyes searching his face. And what about you? She asked. What do you want people to see when they look at you now? He considered the question in a way he never had before. Not just a man in a suit, he said quietly. Not just a name on a building. I want them to see someone who finally learned what matters. She handed the chocolate bar to her mother, who only managed to peel back a corner of the wrapper before her hand started shaking. I've got it, Ethan said, stepping in. He unwrapped it and broke off a small piece, placing it in her hand. Look at you, Grace teased weakly. Mr. CEO, breaking chocolate like a pro. He had a soft laugh. Don't get used to it. I won't get the chance, she joked, then winced as the truth under the joke landed. Sorry, too dark. Lily climbed back onto the chair, curling up again. I don't like these jokes, she muttered. Grace's smile faded. Okay, she said. No more jokes like that. She reached out, fingers brushing Lily's hair. How about this instead? I want us to make a plan. The three of us. A plan for what? Lily asked wearily. For when things change, Grace said carefully. I don't want it to be a sudden earthquake. I want it to be more like waves. They're still scary, but at least you know they're coming. Lily swallowed. I hate the waves. I know, Grace whispered. But you're a good swimmer. They spent the next half hour talking in gentle circles about school, about where Lily might sleep in Ethan's big apartment. I don't need a princess room, Lily insisted. Just somewhere with a window and maybe a bookshelf. About what would happen with her friends. About the small things that made up her world. Ethan listened more than he spoke, absorbing details, her favorite cereal, her fear of thunderstorms, the way she hated when people slammed doors. At some point, Lily dozed off again, head near her mother's hip. Chocolate bar forgotten on the bedside table. Grace watched her daughter sleep, then looked back at Ethan. You're going to have to forgive yourself someday, she said softly, almost as an afterthought. Not for my sake. For hers. Kids can feel when their parents think they're not good enough to love them properly. He looked at Lily. Her face relaxed in sleep, and felt the truth of her words settle in his bones. Be honest with yourself for a moment. After everything you've heard so far, could you forgive someone like Ethan? Type forgive if you believe people can truly change, or never if the hurt would be too deep for you. There's no right or wrong, just your heart. Speaking plainly. The days blurred into a rhythm that felt fragile and precious. All at once. Morning coffee in a paper cup. Hospital corridors. The soft squeak of Lily's sneakers as she ran ahead, then slowed. As if remembering that rushing felt wrong in a place where some people were. Running out of time. Ethan started canceling meetings. At first, his assistant Ava had panicked over the phone. But the quarterly review, reschedule it, he'd said, staring at the 4-line in Grace's arm. If they can't wait a week, they're not the partners I want. There was a stunned pause on the other end. Ethan almost didn't recognize his own voice for him, but different. The priorities inside it had shifted. He spent more time at St. Mary's than in his glass-walled office. He learned the nurses' names, brought them decent coffee when he remembered, and watched as Lily settled into her own routine. Homework on the visitor's chair, coloring pages taped to the walls, whispered conversations with other kids in the hall. Sometimes, when Grace was too tired to talk, Ethan and Lily would sit in the small hospital garden downstairs. It was a square of green caught between gray walls, but someone had planted flowers that refused to give up marigolds, daisies, a stubborn little rosebush. "Mom likes these," Lily said one afternoon, touching a petal with gentle fingers. "She says flowers are proof that life still tries even when the world looks ugly." Ethan watched her, the way she tilted her head just like Grace when she was thinking. "She's right," he said quietly. "You didn't bring me anything," Lily said abruptly, not accusing, just factual. "Like toys or stuffed animals or something?" He blinked, thrown. "I didn't think of that," he admitted. She shrugged. "It's okay. I'm not a baby. I just notice other people bring stuff." He filed the detail away, a mental note scribbled in the margins of his old life. Kids remembered what you didn't do just as clearly as what you did. The next day, he showed up with a small, awkwardly wrapped box. Lily raised an eyebrow. "Did you wrap it yourself?" "Yes," he said. "It shows," she replied. But there was a spark of amusement in her eyes as she peeled the tape back carefully. Inside was a sketchbook with thick, good quality paper and a tin of colored pencils in bright shades. "You're always drawing on napkins?" he said, a little nervous. "I thought maybe you'd like real paper." Lily flipped through the blank pages, fingertips brushing lightly down the center of the book. "You remembered," she murmured, like the idea surprised her. He cleared his throat. "I'm trying to." That night, as the hospital dimmed its lights and the corridors went quieter, Lily sat by Grace's bed, showing her the first rough sketch she'd made, a tiny version of their hospital room, with the three of them drawn in shaky lines. "That's you," Lily pointed. "That's me. And that's him." Grace squinted. "Why did you draw him so tall?" "Because he's annoying to look up at," Lily said matter-of-factly. "Also because he keeps standing instead of sitting." Grace chuckled, the sound small but real. "He's learning," she whispered. Time thinned out. There were days when Grace could sit up, talk, even laugh a little. On those days, they told stories about when she and Ethan had been teenagers, about the time he'd fallen off his bike trying to impress her, about the time they'd missed the last bus and walked 3 miles home. Sharing a single melted candy bar. Lily listened, wide-eyed, as if she were being handed more pieces of a puzzle she hadn't known she was missing. There were other days when Grace was too tired to do more than squeeze Lily's hand and drift in and out of sleep. On those days, Ethan and Lily read to her children's books at first, then whatever they could find, receipts, magazine articles, Lily's homework essays. "Do you think she hears us when she's sleeping?" Lily asked one evening, tracing the ridges of her mother's hand. "I hope so," Ethan said. "Maybe she hears the good parts and skips the boring ones." Lily snorted. "Then she's skipping your work emails?" "Good," he said. One afternoon, Dr. Patel pulled Ethan aside again. Her face was gentle, but her eyes told him what her lips didn't need to. "It's close," she said softly. "You should be here as much as you can." It felt like the air grew heavier. That evening, as the sky outside the tiny window turned from blue to purple, the three of them settled into a quiet that felt different. Not empty, not quite, just final. Grace's breaths were thinner, each one a little struggle. But her eyes were clear, more focused than they'd been in days. "Bug," she whispered, beckoning Lily closer. "Come here." Lily climbed up onto the bed carefully, lying on her side, head tucked against her mother's shoulder. Ethan sat close, one hand wrapped around the rail, the other hovering near Lily's back like he wanted to hold on, but didn't know if he was allowed. "You remember our plan?" Grace asked, breath hitching slightly. "Yeah," Lily whispered. "I'm going to live with him. I'm going to finish school. I'm going to draw. I'm going to keep going." Grace smiled faintly. "That's my brave girl." She turned her head slightly toward Ethan. "And you?" He swallowed. "I'm going to be there," he said. "Really be there. For homework. For bad days. For everything. I'm going to mess up, but I'm not going to leave." She exhaled slowly, relief and pain tangled together. "Good," she whispered. "That's all I needed to hear." Lily's voice trembled. "I don't want you to go." Grace closed her eyes for a second, then opened them again, forcing herself to stay present. "I know," she said. "I don't want to go either, but if I have to, I need to know you'll keep your heart open. Don't shut it down just because you're hurting. Let people love you. Let him love you." Lily twisted, looking at Ethan like he'd been handed a crown and a weight at the same time. He reached out and finally rested his hand gently on her back. "I'll take care of her," he said. "Every version of her. Happy, angry, sad. All of it." Grace's eyes shimmered. "Promise?" "I promise," he said. "If you're still here, breathing with them through this moment, ask yourself one thing. Do you believe love can still rise out of all this hurt? If you do, comment hope below. Let's fill this space with that one word. Maybe someone scrolling past, feeling alone. We'll see it and hold on for one more day. The night deepened. Nurses came and went, checking numbers, adjusting blankets, moving with the soft skill of people used to tiptoeing around heartbreak. At some point, Dr. Patel slipped in, listened, nodded, and quietly dimmed the lights even. "Further, talk to her," she murmured. To Ethan and Lily, hearing is one of the last things to go. So they did. Lily told her about a drawing she wanted to make a giant mural of flowers on a wall somewhere, so everyone could see color when they walked by. Ethan talked about the first time he'd seen Grace on the school bus. Hair a mess, laughing too loudly, not caring who stared. "You wore that ridiculous red jacket," he reminded her, voice soft. "The one with the missing button." "You said it made me look like a tomato," Grace rasped weakly. "I was an idiot," he replied. "You looked like yourself, bright." Lily lifted her head. "You two were weird," she sniffed. "True," Grace whispered. The silence that followed was different from the ones before. It wasn't full of unsaid things anymore. It was just the last bit of road, shared dot at some point. Lily's eyes grew heavy. She fought it, blinking hard, trying to stay awake. "You can sleep," Grace murmured. "I know you're stubborn, but even warriors need rest." Lily shook her head. "What if..." Even if it was late. She was quiet for a moment. "Mom thought you could," she said. "She told me that. She said, your dad is stubborn, but his heart is not as cold as he thinks it is." He laughed softly, the sound wet. "That sounds like her." Lily nodded. "She also said you have terrible taste in movie snacks." "That's a lie," he said. "I have excellent taste." She gave him a small, real smile. "We'll see." Weeks turned to months. They visited Grace's grave together on Sundays, bringing flowers, sometimes neat bouquets, sometimes wild, mismatched stems Lily picked from cracks in the sidewalk. One Sunday, Lily brought her sketchbook. She sat cross-legged in front of the headstone and began to draw, tongue poking out in concentration. When she was done, she turned the book around. It was the three of them again, Grace in the middle, Lily on one side, Ethan on the other. This time, there was something different in the lines. Less distance. More roots. "I know she's not really here," Lily said, tapping the stone. Not all of her anyway. But I like to pretend she can see when we're okay. Or at least, trying to be. He nodded. I think she'd like that. They sat there for a long time, the wind tugging gently at their clothes, the city humming in the distance. If this story settled somewhere deep in you, don't just scroll away like it never happened. Tap like, not for me, but for Grace, and for every real person out there carrying pain quietly and still choosing kindness. And if your heart felt even a little less alone while listening, leave a comment for them below. It might be your way of saying, I felt you. Your story reached me. Ethan didn't become a perfect father. He forgot picture day once and sent Lily to school in her oldest hoodie. He burned more dinners than he cooked right. He messed up when she had her first big test, telling her grades didn't matter at all when they clearly did to her. But he showed up. He went to school meetings, awkward in plastic chairs too small for him. He clapped too loudly at her art show. He turned his phone actually off during their movie nights, even when emails piled up like snowdrifts. On the days when grief hit hard and Lily snapped at him, saying it wasn't the same, that he wasn't her mom, he didn't argue. He sat with her in the storm, let her shout, let her cry, and whispered, You're right. I'm not her. I'm just me. But I'm here. And I'm not leaving. Slowly, she believed him. Slowly, his life, once built on glass and steel, shifted to make room for messy drawings on the fridge, mismatched socks in the hallway, a half-finished puzzle on the coffee table that no one was allowed to clean up. Years later, if someone asked Lily about her story, she would still talk about loss. But she would also talk about the woman who loved her enough to let go when it hurt, and the man who decided, finally, to stay when it mattered most. And if someone asked Ethan when his real life began, he wouldn't say the day he signed his first contract or the day his company crossed its first million. He would say, the day a little girl walked into my lobby, spilled my coffee without touching it, and said, My mom told me you're my dad, because in the end, the money, the buildings, the meetings, those were just shadows on glass. The real story was this: we don't always get to choose the first chapter. Sometimes we mess it up. Sometimes we run. But if life, in its strange, painful mercy, ever hands us a second chance to show up, to love better, to stay instead of flee, our greatest courage is in taking it. And our quiet, everyday redemption is in keeping that promise, one imperfect, honest day at a time.